is a periodic webinar all about VLON webinar, and we always have start the webinar at noon. And today's topic is control access to units and unit groups. Before I even show you the agenda for today, I'd like to review a little bit different, but definitely related to control access rights topic. And this topic is in general about how we provide the rights to any item in the system. First of all, we need to remember that we provide the rights to the user. And the user is the one who can have certain rights. Only the user can have certain rights. And it can have rights to units. It can have rights to unit groups. That's the topic for today, user rights to units and unit groups. But at the same time, user can also have rights to users and resources. So one user can have the right to log in as another user in the system, or one user can have a right to change the other user's rights to the units. So besides that, user can have rights to resources. That means that he can delete or create certain items in the resource, such micro items, micro objects as notifications, reports, and drivers, trailers, passengers. So it's all the different topic, but it's good to have the understanding that user indeed can have the rights to more objects than units and unit groups. Well, the rights to units and unit groups are 99% the same. There is only one slight difference that we'll talk about later. That's why we combine those rights, and why the units item is highlighted here, because we give the privilege to those rights that you provide to the units. So kind of like those rights that you provide to units override those rights that you provide to unit groups. And again, we should have a couple of minutes to talk about a certain example when it does matter which rights you give to units and which rights you give to unit groups. What else the slide reminds you of is how you actually give the rights to the units and unit groups to user. You certainly can do it from both interfaces, admin interface on the right side and dispatch interface on the left side. All you need to do is to select Users tab and then open the User Properties dialog. This is how you do it via dispatch interface by clicking on the range, and this is how you do it in CMS by double-clicking on the user name. Now, I often get asked the question if you can provide the rights to multiple users just for one unit. Or do you need to go to each user, open the user properties dialog, and then give each user a separate right to the unit or the same right to the unit? Now, of course, we give you the convenience to provide multiple users the rights to one certain unit or to one certain unit group in a very convenient way. In order to make it possible, you just need to open the Units tab, again, via admin interface on the left side or via dispatch interface on the right side, and then select those users and provide them the right to the unit or unit group. Remember, you need to select just one specific unit or just one specific unit group. And of course, there is an option to provide the rights to one specific unit or unit group to all users to which you personally have access to. Now, once we review that, how does the access right dialog looks like? So you click on this range key or you double click on the username and you opened the access right dialog that will look the same way as on the screenshot. So you'll have the units list on the left side, and then you'll have certain access right templates, and you'll have all the possible rights that you can give divided into two separate columns. And we'll talk about what each column means in a second. On the right side, you can see how the unit group access right dialog looks like. So here, again, is the second scenario, not that popular scenario when you open one specific unit or one specific unit group, and you just want to give the rights to multiple users to that specific unit group. So of course, in this case, on the left side, you'll have to select those users who should have certain rights to this unit group. So now let's look at our agenda for today and see what we'll be talking about. We have three topics to cover. First one is about the difference between standard and special rights to units and unit groups. Second one, we'll be talking about suggested access right templates. And finally, we'll talk about sharing access using hierarchy of the users. And again, we're talking about sharing access to unit and unit groups. Let's start with the first topic. And here you see the screenshot that shows you their access to the units, all different rights that allow you to give certain access to the units. And as you remember, there are two different columns, which are called item ACL and unit ACL. ACL stands for access control list, so it's just the list of rights. And then item ACL means that we are talking about standard rights. Those rights are standard to different macro objects in the system. They are standard to units, unit groups, users, and even to resources. So remember this very first slide when I showed you that user can have access to users, user can have access to resources, and user also can have access to units and unit groups. This first column will never change. And this is why we call it also standard rights. The second column, unit ACL, is presenting the special rights. Those rights are special to units and unit groups in our case. And if you try to look at the user rights to resources, this column will completely change. The same way, it will completely change if you look at the user rights to other users. But units and unit groups are, as we already mentioned, 99% the same. That's why we can talk about it in one webinar. Now, let's look at the very first right on the first column, view item and its basic properties. So let's say I want to give this right to my user. How it will affect? It's important to remember that we give this right only to one unit and only one right. No other rights are enabled. And then the effect that we see that we allow to see the unit in different lists and panels. For example, on the screenshot on the left side, you can see that the unit appeared on the list of units. Then we allow to see the unit name and account, resource name, to which this unit belongs to. We're allowed to see it in the unit properties. So we clicked on the wrench key, we opened unit properties, we look at the general tab, and that's how we see it. We're not able to change the name, we're not able to change anything else, we just see the name and account. Plus, it's important to remember that it's basic right. And without giving this right, you will not be able to give any other right to this unit. Well, this is just an example. And let's also give you the example of how you can provide the special right view connectivity settings. So once you provide this right to the unit, again, we already provided the right to see the basic properties, because without it, we would not be able to provide the right to view connectivity settings. So the combination of two rights allowing us to see the unit device type, the unit server address. That's to which server and port you need to point the unit to make it connected to our server and see the data on the platform. Then we also see unique ID and phone number and device password. Well, phone number is an optional field, so here you see no information, and device access password is also optional. Now, you can see that we can't edit anything, because that's another right, edit connectivity settings. Plus, this description mentions that besides seeing this information in General tab, you also will be able to see it in Unit Tooltip and Extended Unit information. So when you hover your mouse over the unit on the map, that's where you can see it. It also allows the filtration parameters of the messages on the Advanced tab, that we won't go that deep today into that details, but it's all about deciding how many satellites should be reported by this unit in order to consider that message reported by unit a valid message. Okay. So as you can see, there are so many checkboxes, so many rights, and of course we're not going to explain you all these checkboxes and rights today. We will be going to talk about suggested access right templates, the default access right templates, and how you can make your own custom access right templates and benefit from these templates by having ability to quickly distribute access rights to the units and unit groups. It depends on your user role in the system, in the account. Each user should have specific rights. And those default access right templates just telling you if the user should have any access at all, or he shouldn't. So if he shouldn't have any access, you'll be using access rights that is called no access. Obviously, none of the checkboxes is enabled here. And then the next access right template you can use is read only. So in this case, you give very limited rights to see the unit on the map, to see certain properties in the General tab, and to see custom fields. I would tell in the beginning that from the general practices of our customers, this template should be edited a little bit and probably converted to some demo access template. Okay, because this is very basic rights and it doesn't allow any user to get the notifications from unit, and it doesn't allow to change the icon. So not enough rights to practice, to experience what you can do with the unit in general. Then of course, we give you a full access right template. And this template would have absolutely all checkboxes selected. And usually only the main supervisor or main admin user should have full access rights. So as you can see, these 3 slides show which units were selected on the left side of the unit lists, and how this access right template was assigned to those units. The next 2 screenshots will show that those units that have read-only access have a corresponding color. So if the access right template has a blue color, then those units that we selected on the left side, they also will have a blue color. The same way, you can easily see which units have full access. I mean, to which units this user have full access. Now, since I already mentioned that read-only access right template can be edited and can be called something similar to demo access, why don't we see how indeed we can edit that access right template and how you can create your own custom access right template. Now, I go to the user, open user properties by clicking on branch key, and I open access right template. So here, I will work with those units that are currently highlighted in blue. And that means that we provided read-only access rights to them. I will select those units, and then I will click Edit Presets button in order to edit this access right template. Once I clicked on that button, I see different options. I can create completely new access right template, which I don't want to do. And I can cancel and not make any actions at all. I can't save that template yet because I didn't make any changes. So once I make at least one change, I can save my change, and this access right template will be edited. Okay. Now I want to make more than one change, and I want to start with renaming this access right template to demo access. Now we'll be talking about the role of the user who has a very limited access to your platform, and the main purpose of giving him access to the platform is allowing him to test the platform. He haven't decided to use the platform yet, but he wants to have certain experience with your own demo units. So we're not talking about those demo units that he can create himself. We're talking about those demo units that you can give to this demo client. And in this case, from the standard rights, you shouldn't give absolutely any other rights besides those ones that are already selected. Plus, I would suggest not to give him the rights to view detailed item properties, since that would involve such rights as being able to edit trip detections and fuel consumption settings. Sounds complicated, right? Trip detection, fuel consumption settings. That's not something that your demo customer wants to see or know with his first experience, first impression about the platform. So let's not give him that right. And let's still give him the right to see some custom fields if they even exist in your system, if you even use them. And then query reports for this unit, like query the trip report and see what the trips of the units are. No ability to view or download files. Your customer is not going to work with import-export settings, and that's something that would involve some training on the system. And on the right column, when we talk about special rights, let's actually not give them the possibilities to see what the device type of your unit is or what the unique ID is. So the less is better. But we surely want to give them the right on the very bottom of this checklist. And that right is called use units in jobs, notifications, routes, and retranslators. The most important part here is the notification. So if you have some demo notifications in the system, then your customer would be excited to see those notifications popping up on the screen. For example, if it's a dispatcher notification, that's how he will get notified that something is wrong with your demo unit. And this way he'll understand how the notifications work. So plus he may want to use this unit to create his own notification. And that's what gives him that right, use the unit in notifications. Or other parts of that right are not that important. So we'll skip them to save some more time. So let's save these settings. So I click the save button. Okay. And let's create one more access right template, and then we'll review how this user, access rights demo user, can see those units now. So in order to create a new template, we click again, edit presets, then we click create button. Okay, so there is no create button from the beginning. You need to click edit and then create. And then we can name this template no delete rights, or no delete access. So what do I want to do here? I want to select absolutely all rights 1 second. Okay, so I need to click Control, hold Control, and then click on one checkbox, and I will select absolutely all checkboxes. I often get asked the question, what the second column means? And this is a good situation to explain what the second column means. It shows you what was the previous state of your access to those units. And this previous state was to see just a few rights. And those rights are view item, view detail, item properties, view custom fields. So that's what were the rights that we previously provided with the template. Okay. Now, since we call this role no delete access, what we mean here is that we're giving absolutely all rights, but we don't give the right to delete the unit, and we don't give the right to delete the messages. These are the two most dangerous rights in the system. By saying dangerous, I mean that it's very important to avoid the situation when a user figures out how to delete the history of the units. And this is actually possible if he has access to messages and then he has these rights, then he can find a way to delete the messages. Plus, of course, you don't want the user to complain that his unit disappeared just because he deleted the unit by mistake. So please have this template or some other template where you don't give this to rights to the user. Let's click Save. Okay. And in order to see the difference, let's give demo access to these units, no delete access to those ones. Click OK. Then log in as another user, log in as access rights demo user. Top right corner, login as button, and then you click on the user itself. Okay. By default, you won't see any units on the list, but as you remember, you can manage the unit list by clicking All button and adding all available units. First of all, I'd like to remind that clear list button doesn't mean that you're deleting the units. You're just managing the work of the unit list and removing those units that shouldn't be here. The units will still stay in the system and they will be shown in unit list. Here you see that you cannot delete all of the units except this top 6. Why? Because this we gave full rights only to the top 6 units. Now, if we open unit properties of some random unit, for example, this one, we'll see that this customer can see the trip detection, fuel consumption. He can see all this connectivity settings. So this is the unit that the user access right demo user has almost full rights to this unit. We provided no delete rights template to this unit. And that's why we can delete it here. Or if we run the messages for this unit, so this customer has the access to messages tab. He can look at the messages from this unit. And then, as you can see, there is no column delete. The column delete is supposed to be on the very right side. While if we run the messages for bus 1, we can delete bus 1. So we run the messages for bus 1 and switching to the right side. Waiting a little bit more. Okay, here we go. A lot of SOS messages, and here we see how we can select those messages and actually even delete those one. Not an easy feature to find out. Most of the customers are not aware that such feature exists at all. But still, as you can see, it is possible to select the messages and delete, and this is why we offer you to avoid such situations. Now, if we get back to the main user, click OK. And go to the import export settings, go to the export to WLP, and find that user in the system. Look at this user settings. It doesn't matter which user we actually want to find out. On the list, any user that you select will have the setting that includes the access right templates. And it's called presets of access rights. Why this setting is important is because all the access right templates that we created for Demo USA user can be indeed exported and shared with other admin users who are supposed to distribute the access rights to units and unit groups. Let's look at the last slide of our presentation, last topic that shows how you can share access using hierarchies. Let's say this is your hierarchy. This is a top user and top account. This is an admin user and admin account. And these are your end customers. If the hierarchy looks correct, right? So the end customers are created by admin user, not by the top one. Then how the access rights to units and unit groups should be distributed. First of all, the admin user should be responsible for creating units for the end customers. I'm not saying that's the rule that should be followed by everyone at all, but this is a general practice, specifically when you're just setting up your first accounts. So you create unit 1 for end user 1. This is your first action. You assign end user 1 as a creator for this unit. Your second action will be to assign the right access right template for this user. So you will open the end user access dialog, select this unit 1, and then assign some template. For example, if this is just a demo user, you will assign the demo access template that we just created today. Now, if you did this, then the third step would be creating the copies of this unit 1. So create unit 2 by making a copy of unit 1. This way, end user 1 will have the same rights to unit 2 as he has to unit 1. So he will automatically acquire the demo access rights to unit 2. This is the best way to create all new units, so making sure that your end users have the right access to the units and unit groups as well. Now, about this case, when we were talking about the difference between providing access rights to units and unit groups, imagine that you gave the right to the user to delete the unit group, but at the same time, you did not give the right to this user to delete a specific unit 1 that belongs to the unit group. Do you think the user will be able or not able to delete the unit 1? So he has the right to delete the unit group ABC to which unit 1 belongs to, but he doesn't have the right to delete the unit 1. Will he be able to delete the unit 1? No, he won't be able. Or even if you give the rights to see the connectivity settings to unit 1, I'm sorry, do not give the rights to unit 1 to see the connectivity settings like UID of the unit or device type, but you give that right to the unit group. Again, the rights to the unit will be more important. Hope it all makes sense, and I'm sure you may have some questions left. So that will be all for the day. And still, if you ask any questions, I'll be glad to answer them in answer section. Thank you for your attention, and hope to see you on the next webinars. Have a nice day.